Hello and welcome to ET Garage. Today's video is part 2 of the replacement of my front spring on my Corvette. So let's get to it, I guess. Okay, up here on my laying on top of my tire front wheel is the this is aftermarket spring from Vet Brake Products, and I can't remember how many years I had this on here. I had it on there for quite a few years. I replaced my original one, which was pretty much like this one, because it was starting to sag and the front spoiler was starting to drag, and it was starting to delaminate. But anyway, going through a construction site, if you haven't seen the first part, I ended up cracking this spring. Now, if you look at the aftermarket replacement one, it's actually, even though it's straighter and thicker, it's actually the same ride quality. It's the same spring rate or whatever, or supposed to be. And because of the way they manufacture the Vet Brake Products, which is no longer in business, that's just the way it is. And it did its job really good until it broke. But anyway, here's a factory replacement. This ain't actually an exact factory replacement. Like my spring, there's different spring rates for Corvettes. This is an FHC. Mine was an FHA. FHC, the only difference between FHC and FHA is is actually one's for a convertible and one is for a coupe. The reason I got this, I got a used one off of eBay, and with shipping was like $270 or something like that. I forgot, but it was around that. And this came off a I guess it was an 88 Corvette. Not old year. Springs are interchangeable, so you got to make sure you get the right one off it for a C4 Corvette. They changed the design. Earlier ones, 87 through 84, are a different design. They look exactly the same, but they're slightly longer, and if you install them on a 90 Corvette, it will, when you go to lower it, this part here will butt out on the inside of the control arm and keep the suspension from settling, and the front end will be riding way in the air. But as far as I can tell, the only difference between the FHC and the FHA, like this off a convertible and the other one's off a coupe, is one comes with a green sticker and one comes with a blue sticker. They're rated the same spring rate, and according to the factory service manual, depending on your color sticker is depending how many shims you get. Like the FHA has a yellow sticker, supposed to use 1 shim. I believe it's the next spring up is supposed to use 2 shims. The FHC is supposed to get no shims. I don't know why it is that way, but everything is exactly the same, so I'm going to install it that way. One thing you can notice, if I can turn these sideways without dropping them, is how much more bow the factory original one has than the aftermarket one. But then you can see how much thicker this one is. So I'd have to say the factory one might be a better design, because I never had one of them break like this one did, so who knows. But the one problem is, like, I was able to slide this out from beneath here at the height that I have the car right now. You can see it'll go right in, no problem. But the problem with the factory one is there's too much of an arch, and hopefully you guys can see that, how much of an arch. Because of this really big arch, this car has to come up a lot higher, and I'm gonna have to probably remove this lower control arm too. So let me get to it and get the lower control arm off. Then I'm gonna get this up higher and see how that goes. see, the spring is in there and it looks like it's ready to go. And it looks like I just have to put these brackets in, and it looks like it's gonna be simple, easy, except if you look over here, this is under the control arm. It needs to go on top, and the only way I'm gonna get that on top is to unbolt the lower ball joint, and I gotta unbolt the upper part of the shock because I need to get that out of the way in order to get to the ball joint. Unbolt the ball joint, lower the control arm down, and then it should slide in here. Another thing, if you ever do a spring replacement, this pad area here gets grease, and this pad, the pad under here gets grease. You use chassis grease on it. At least that's what I use. I use a marine grade chassis grease. Same thing that I lubricate the ball joints with. So I guess let me get to taking this side apart. Oh joy, ain't I lucky. Okay, this is where I'm at. I had to, I don't know if you've seen it in the video or not, I had to use the floor jack to compress the spring a little bit to get the first bracket started. But it needs to go over that way more. And in order to do that, I am going to have to reinstall this A-arm. And when I install it and compress it, hopefully that'll push it into place and line everything up. And then I can get that other bracket on. And then I have to compress that side in order to probably get that bracket on too. So for now, I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll get back to getting everything together. Okay, once I compressed the springs using the jack and raising the A-arms up and compressed them up, it all went in. It didn't go as simple as I just said it, but it went in. They do make a special tool for compressing it. If I can find a picture of it, I'll include it here somewhere in the video. But they're expensive, and unless you know someone that has one that can lend you one that's nearby, it's just not worth it to change out a spring once in God knows how many years. It's not something, unless you're doing this all the time, it's not worth the money for that tool. Let's put it that way. But let me see what I got to do. I got to put the shocks back on. I got to put these rock guards. These protect the springs from rocks, and those on. The shocks, the sway bar, tie rod on this side, and the brake rotor and the brake caliper. Then get the wheels on, get it on the ground, torque all the lug nuts, and take it for a test ride, I hope. Hopefully everything goes good. Now when I first lower it on the ground, it's going to sit up in the air and until I bounce it up and down the road a little bit and settle everything. At least I hope it settles into place. Yeah. That's just the way it goes. So let me get going on this, and hopefully this will go back together better. The rest of everything hopefully will go back together better than putting that spring back in, going through all that. So let me get going on this, and I gotta remember, of course, to put the cotter pins in on the lower ball joints and lube them, and the outer tie rod too. Let me get going. back from a test drive, and it seems to be riding and handling good. I think that other spring to me was felt a little more compliant before it broke, of course. But anyway, this is sitting where it should be. And when I first put it on the ground, it was sitting like up a couple of more inches, you know, because I had to settle the spring in. But once it all settled in and everything, it was fine. And took it down one of my favorite twisty roads, local mountain roads here, and handled fine and rode, you know, the way a C4 does. So it's back on the road again. So it needs a good bath. It's still dirty from that 1,500-mile road trip I took to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio, and then from there, of course, I went down there to Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then, of course, I came home from Kentucky and West Virginia, and that's when I broke that spring. But I did run into some difficulties, and for whatever reason, putting the brackets that go from the lower control arm to the sway bar, they just gave me lots of grief. I don't know why, they just did. But they gave me grief. I eventually got them on, and once those were on, everything else seemed to go together pretty good. When I first put the brake caliper on, I actually twisted the hose the wrong way, and I caught it just before I put the wheel on and took it back off and straightened that out. So I don't know if you've seen that in the video or not. But like I said, it's good to go. Hopefully soon I'll have this sucker on the dyno, I hope, and get you a dyno video, and hopefully it does pretty decent. But anyway, I want everybody to have a great day, and God bless.